Hi everyone, welcome again. This is your friend Alok, and I'm a full stack web developer. If you want to contact with me or say just hi, you can reach out to me in Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @the cool learner. Welcome to the part 2 of this CSS tutorial. In the last class, we saw definition of what is CSS. We took a help of picture to understand better. Then the topic that we covered in the last class was prerequisite, CSS structure, CSS selector, different ways to write CSS, and some of the properties. And in this video, we'll talk about what is CSS specificity, box model, and at last a small project for you to earn certificates. So in today's class, firstly we'll talk about what is CSS specificity. So it's basically is that when we apply more than one rules to one element, then which style is to be applied is determined with the help of few set of rules, which is called CSS specificity. Let's look at this with the help of a picture. So this is the chart which tells us about which elements or which selectors have the highest specificity or and which elements or selectors have the lowest specificity. So in this chart, you can see that the inline styles have the highest specificity, which is followed by the ID selectors or the classes selectors, attributes, pseudo classes, and at last is elements or pseudo elements. So the selectors having elements have the lowest specificity. Let's look at these with the help of few examples. So we have the same file that we were using in the previous class, and I have a server running, which is this one, which you can remember from the last class. So firstly we'll talk about CSS specificity. So if you'll remember from the chart that the highest specificity is of inline styles and the lowest is of elements. So let's check it. So if you'll see that here in the h1 tag we have an inline styles of color red. So let's try giving it an color blue with the help of element selector. So if we'll select the element with the help of element selector and let's give it a color blue. So you might be thinking that which color will be applied. As you can see, we have also applied red color with the help of inline style and blue color with the help of element selector. So if we'll go with the help of this chart, then according to this chart or CSS specificity, the inline styles must be applied as it has higher specificity than the element style. So let's see, it is of red color or blue. So you can see we have still the red color, not the blue one, as the inline styles have more specificity than the element. Let's see few more examples. Let's try this time the classes and element selectors. So we already have one element selector, which is of color blue. So let's give it one class selector. So if we'll give it a class, let's say test, then we'll use in class selector. Then let's give it a color of blue, or we have already blue, then let's give it green this time. So what we can assume that now we have three styles applied to the same element, that is h1. Firstly, we have an inline style which is of color red. Then we have one h1, or you can say element selector. Then we have one class selector. So if we'll go with the help of this chart, then we have one inline style, one class style, and one element style. So what we can assume that still inline styles must be applied, which is of color red, as it has the highest specificity. So let's see. So you can see it's still red. So let's get rid of the inline styles. So now we have two styles conflicting. One which is of element styles and one which is of class selectors. So if we'll go with the help of the chart, then the class styles must be applied as it has more specificity than the element one. So let's see it is of green or blue. So you can see it is of green, as the class styles or class selectors have more specificity than the element one. So CSS specificity will help you to understand that why some of your styles are not behaving as you were thinking that it should, and it will surely help you a lot to tackle those problems. So there is one trick that can be used to apply. For example, here the blue color is not applied as its specificity is less than the class one, but there is a special tag which is this one, exclamation mark and important, which defies everything and just override everything and applies the styles. So now you will see that the blue color is applied no matter what its specificity is. So it's basically used sometimes in special cases, but mostly it is advised that not to use this, as whenever you will try to avoid those rules, then surely in a long run you will face problems and the styles will be getting out of control. So it's generally advised not to use this tag, but it can come in handy. So let's get rid of this for now. So let's move on to our next topic, which is box model. So box model basically says that the web browser renders every element as a rectangular box which consists of content, border, padding, and margins. So basically it is used to create the layout of the web pages. Let's see it with the help of an example or diagram. So basically our box model tells that every element is wrapped in a rectangular box in which there in the center is the main content, which is surrounded by the padding, which is the difference between the content and the border. So we have already seen what border is, and at last there is a margin which is help to separate the content from other contents. So let's see it with the examples, and while exploring those, we'll see few other more properties which are padding, margin, and outline. We have already seen border, but we'll see it again. So let's start. So firstly, let's change our to CSS part 2. Let's give a heading, which is part 2. So for that, we'll use two divs, one of a class test. We already have that one, so let's remove. Now it's of no use. Which will be of 150 pixels. We'll use it as a reference and we'll see everything in this one, which is of class real, or we can say the test one that we'll see. So give it a content like content. So let's firstly give our text one a color of green, okay, a width of 150 pixels as we said, and a background color of red. And now our real one, color of red, a background color of yellow, and width of 150 pixels. So let's see what we have right now. So you can see we have the both of the divs here. The first one is the test one, which is of 150 pixels, and the next one is also 150 pixels. So right now you can see that we have the content here. Let's align it both to the middle so it will be more clear. So now we have the content in the center. Then we have a border of 0 pixel right now because we have not set the border. So let's firstly give it a border of 1 pixel, solid blue. So now you can see that our the second div is slightly larger than the first one. You can see here. So why is that? It's because now we have a border. So you can say that we have more 1 pixel in this side, more 1 pixel in this side, and more 1 pixel in this side. So that's why now our second div dimensions change from 150 pixels to 152 pixels in this one side because of 1 pixel border from this side and 1 pixel border from this side. So if we want to manage that, so we have to remove 2 pixels from the total width, and if we'll do that, then you can see now the both are of same widths because now we have the content, or we can say the width of the div as 142 pixels, and then 1 plus 1 150 pixels. So let's see what padding means. So let's give it a padding of 5 pixels. So now you can see that again our content is slightly bigger than the previous one, or our div is slightly bigger than the previous one, which is because of the padding that we give. So the padding is the distance between the content and our border. So you can assume that, or you can see that we have a padding of 5 pixels on all sides. So that's why now our content, second one, is 10 pixels more wider than the first one because of the 5 pixels of padding from this side or this side. So if we want to manage that, then we'll just simply reduce 10 pixels of our width, total width. Then you can say again we have the same width in both of the divs. So different ways of giving padding is that we have some sub properties like padding left, in which only the padding left is there, not on the right one. That's why it's 5 pixels shorter. Padding top, padding right, padding bottom. We can also give it as like that, padding top and bottom as 0 pixels and left and right as 5 pixels. So now you can see that there is a padding of 5 pixels in left and right side, but not on the top and bottom. You can simply reverse it, as now the left and right have 0 pixels and top and bottom have 5 pixels. So now you can see that the total width reduced from 10 pixels because of 5 pixels and 5 pixels on left and right, and now we have only padding in top and bottom. So let's simplify it, is that 5 pixels on all sides. So let's talk about now margin. So if we'll give a margin of 5 pixels, then the margin is around the rectangular box, or you can say from outside of the border. So you can see that now we have a margin of 5 pixels in all sides, that is in the left, in the right, in the top and the bottom. So that's again now our width is of the same, which is of 150 pixels of this rectangular box, but now it has a margin, so the total dimension change from 150 pixels to 160 pixels. And if you want to manage that, then simply just remove 10 pixels from the total width. So now we can say that the width of both divs are same, as now it may seem that it is not, but it's still the same, as we have a margin of 5 pixels on both sides. If we'll take that, in account, then it's still of 150 pixels. So margin 2 have sub properties like margin top, margin bottom. So let's try margin top. So now you can see we have only margin at the top, not at the sides and at the bottom. We have only 5 pixel at the top, and we can also use it as we have used in the padding one, that is 0 pixel on top and bottom and 5 pixels on the sides. Now you can see we don't have margins at top or bottom, only at the side. You can reverse it as 5 pixel on top and bottom and 0 pixels on the sides. Now we have a margin at the top of 5 pixel and the bottom 5 pixel and sides 0 pixel. Let's keep it as 5 pixel and all sides. So let's talk about what are the uses of this. So we have already seen border that is used to differentiate, or you can say separate the content from rest of the page. We have also the padding one, which is used to give a space between the content and the border so it don't look messy. And at last we have the margin, which is used to give a distance, or you can say space between different content so that they don't overlap with each other. And the basically this is used to create the layout of the page or design the layout of the page so everything looks beautiful. So moving forward, let's see the next properties that we have to cover today. And the next one is outline property. So let's give outline to our real one. Let's see what happens. So outline is basically same as border with some differences, like it is basically used to make your content stand out from the rest of the page. Let's give it a solid green. You can see now we have an outline of green color. We can also give different types of outlines as similar to the borders. Let's increase it to 2 pixels so it is more visible. I think I messed up something. It's dashed. So now you can see we have a 2 pixel of outline. So there the difference between outline and a border is that the outline doesn't affect the dimensions of the width, or you can say the div. It's still apart from the width of the div. So if we just increase the outline, it will not affect and overlap the next ones, as you can see right now. But if we do with the border, for example, if we give a border of 20 pixels, it will affect the content, and you can see now still we have a margin of 5 pixels, and the total dimension of the content changed from whatever it was to this one, and it's now bigger than the previous one. So the difference between outline and border is that the outline doesn't affect the dimension of the div, while the border affects the dimension of the width and it adds up to the total width of the div. So let's keep it as usual, whatever it was. So next that we have to see is link property. So for that we need an anchor tag, which you must have read while in the HTML course. Let's give it a hashtag symbol for now, and link. So now we have a link, which is link. Let's see what are the different styles in that. First, let me write all that and then we'll explain one by one. The first one is a link. Let's give it a color of blue. The next one is hover. Let's give it a color of red. The next one is active. Let's give it a color of green. And the last one is visited. Let's give it a color of purple. So what this would do is that whenever there is a link, then the color blue will be applied on that. And whenever we'll click on that link, that means that we have visited that link, then the color will change from blue to purple. And when we'll hover over the link, means that when we'll just move move our cursor above that element, then it will change from blue to red. And at the time of clicking on the link for a just minute second, or you can say a very small amount of time, the color will change from blue or purple to green, but we won't be able to see that as the rendering is very fast. So let's see this happens or not. So we already clicked on that link, that's why it's showing visited purple. Let's use another one. So let's for this time let's move to another. Let's give it an idea of, and then we'll just link to that using this one. So now you can see we have the link which is initially blue of color, and we'll hover over that. That color changed from blue to red, and we'll click on that. It will be at the time of clicking green color, but we won't be able to see that it happens very fast. So you might have seen that the color was changed to green for a second, and now when we'll have the visited link, then the color will be finally changed to purple one. So these are the four types of links properties. So one thing that I wanted to say is that this hover property can also be used with the other element. For example, let's use it with the real one. So what we have to do is that select that, and after that we have to give us colon and just write the hover, and after that whatever styles that you want to apply you can, and just simply when we'll just hover over that, the styles will be applied. Generally hover property is applied for the buttons where we just write that to change the cursor to pointer, so that when we just click on a, then that our arrow should turn to pointer, so that it implies that this is a button that we have to click. So moving forward, the next is opacity. So opacity is a simple one that specifies that you can give an opacity to an element which ranges from 0 to 1. That is 0 is fully transparent. As you can see now, our real element is fully transparent, and 1 means that it's totally visible. So you can give opacity in between those. Generally it is used to give the fading effect to the background pictures, so that our content that will just write over it will be more visible. So moving forward, the next one is float. So float property is used to move the content in the page around. So let's see first what it happens or what it do. So with the help of float, you can set it like to right or left. So right now we have applied the float property to the real when we hover over that. So right now our content is in the left, but when we'll hover over that, that content will move from left to right. And now you can see that Firstly, the content element was a div, so it was a block element and it occupied all the space in this line. But as soon as we'll hover over that and the float property is applied, then it changes to the inline element and the next element takes the space of that. You can see that the link elements that were after this element, that means the real element, they take the space of the content element, or you can say the real element. So it changes from the block element to inline element. You can also give like properties to the different ones, and if we'll just use on test, and if we'll give it a property of float right, then from starting only it will be floated to the right one, and it's again an inline property. And you can say we have given the width of that. So if we'll remove the width of that, then you will see that it will behave exactly as inline elements and takes only the space that is of the content, as you can see. Now the width is only up to the content, and again you can see that this element, when it moved to the right, then its space was taken by the content element, or you can say that this element. So to see that, let's give the test element a width of 100%. So now you'll see that when test element takes 100% of the width, you can see that it overlaps with the next element, because now it's an inline element and the space is not taken by the next element. And now when it moves, then that space is taken by the next elements of that. And when we'll see that, we'll give both of them one a float of left and the real one of float of right. And just we can use the hover property only. So you can see when, let's remove the width first. So you can see now when both elements will be floated, one to the left and one to the right, then the space in between will be occupied by the next elements. So float property is basically used for designing the layout, as you can say that it is used to move the contents in the page. So these are the properties that we talked today, that is padding, margin, outline, link, opacity, float. So moving forward, so there are many topics in CSS that is beyond that we can cover in one single video. So these are the some things that I want you to explore by yourself. You'll find a plenty of resources in internet for that, which is of flex and grid, which are display properties that is used for designing layouts. The next one is responsiveness, which means that how we can make our website compatible to all the different display sizes or display different devices like smartphones, laptop, PC, and etc. As I said, there are lots of different properties in CSS. So moving forward to the task that you have to complete in order to earn certificate is that you have to create a small navbar. You can design it whatever in the way you like. So let's I give an example. Firstly, that you can see we have this a navbar. So basically, what navbar is that, let me present it first. So basically, what navbar is that it is a list of links that is used to move around the page or to the different contents of the website. So you can see we have different examples. We have some horizontal navbars that you can create using a list and then using inline display inline properties that we have talked earlier, through which you can just stack them after one after another, and then you can use anchor tags or you can just link them to the different content sections. This is also an example of horizontal navbar. that you can see there are list of elements which are stacked one after them, and they can be used to move to different sections. You can just simply link them to different sites like Google, Wikipedia. We have also one example of a horizontal navbar, which is simply just a list of links which is used to move to different parts of the pages, like one takes us to the main page, one takes us to the content section, one to the current events. So your task is to just design and create a simple navbar, and the rest of the details of how to submit it and how to earn certificates will be conveyed you to later. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining. I hope that you might have gained something useful from this video. So see you next time.